Grand Rising, everybody. And today we are going to talk about the twin flame. Now, we've talked about this before in our podcast. We talked about it, and I think we sort of hit the surface. It's such a huge, vast narrative, concept, myth, story, whatever you want to call it. It's this huge thing, and I feel like more and more people are starting to wake up to this narrative. And more people are starting to talk about it. In fact, I was doing some kind of YouTube research. So I went on YouTube and just kind of, I know it's great research, right? But anyway, I went on YouTube and just kind of looked just because I wanted to understand more into the twin flame, what it means for me, my scenario. And in doing so, saw that there were new people like emerging into this field of the twin flame and saw that they had been doing it. It was like a month ago, 6 months ago, and there's just more and more and more and more individuals that are starting to come out and talk about it. They also have like the Twin Flame Academy, like so
Oh, really?
yeah, there's totally a Twin Flame Academy. So there's all these, and I think that's probably where all these people are starting their podcasts from because they're reading this book, on the Twin Flame, and I think people are starting to wake up and for me, and I think you and I have talked about, what the twin flame is, and I think I used the word woo woo so much on the last podcast,
Maybe a little.
I but because to me it was at first this woo woo thing, but the twin flame scenario, I think there's something there. There's something to be learned. There's something to understand. It helps us to, I believe, tap into these higher realms, and be able to maybe even transcend these lower chakra systems and kind of move up into these 5D, 10D, I don't know how many Ds there are, but to be able to understand this maybe bigger macro collective energy that we're experiencing here in this three-dimensional time space. And so a pretty powerful myth story is the twin flame. And I like it. I'm just going to say I like it. It's given me an opportunity to heal parts of myself that I don't think would have healed had I not had this particular narrative or storyline to follow.
I agree.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so with the twin flame, we've talked about the myth. I know Pam had talked about the myth in our last one, so you can go back and find the twin flame podcast. I think we'll talk about it a lot more because it's such a huge part of even women of consciousness, where we are unifying the sacred masculine and feminine energies within. So we're learning
Yes.
to find unity within, but also people talk about the unity with another partner. And I think a lot of people want another partner. That's what I've learned throughout my life in my own personal journey and seeing people. They really want to be with another person. Like we long for another person to be in our life. Do we need that? No. But I think that it's important that if we do want to have another person, that we actually find the unity within ourselves prior to coming into connection with another individual. And that they too, you naturally are going to find someone who's healed like that if you're going through your own healing. And I think the twin flame offers that scenario to really focus on the inner work and then to be able to partner with somebody who's working on their inner work so that you have this complete harmonized relationship as opposed to this trauma bonds or whatever's going on out
Yeah.
there. There's so many of those going on, right?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
uh-huh. Yeah, I know. We have so many trauma bonds. Like, and not that there's something wrong with the trauma bond. It's just that I think we forget that those are just lessons in our life we're supposed to learn and move on from. And I think we stay stuck in trauma bonds probably a lot longer than we need to.
Yeah.
Because
Or
it's
very
hard. It's hard
subconscious
to
and don't know you're there in one.
That's very true. And to wake up, but the cool thing with the twin flame scenario is that if you meet your twin, they kind of jolt you out of that slumber
Yes.
of these karmatic patterns that you're in with other individuals and such. And they help you to evolve your soul purpose on this planet. So I feel like a lot of people searching for their soul purpose um, might need to actually meet their twin flame in order to wake them up from their slumber. And I'll say this, and then, Pam, you can take it away. But what happened with me, I'll just kind of talk about my story and my trigger because I'm on my twin flame journey that I didn't even believe I was a twin. I didn't even know what the heck it was, as you guys may or may not know. Didn't even believe in that. I believed I was a lone wolf. I keep telling Pam this. I was a lone wolf. I was fine by myself, and lo and behold, as I was at the pinnacle of my lone wolf self and I was like leading the charge, I got hit like really, really massively by quote unquote my twin flame, which was an energy that I wasn't ready for, but I guess you're not supposed to be. I don't know if you're supposed to be ready. You're not supposed to be ready. I guess I don't know. It just happens. And what happens for the sacred feminine that I'm reading about is that they ignite the heart chakra,
Mm.
and they open you up for the
Oh,
heart
yeah.
chakra. And so there's like this, yeah, there's just like this wave of energy. And so when I met my twin, I started crying, and I didn't even know the person. Like, I'm like, what the hell am I crying? I don't even know this person, but I felt like I knew him. And there was a wave of energy that was so powerful, so big, I mean, it was just bigger than I could even understand, that I couldn't stop crying. Like, I literally cried for hours and hours and hours and hours, and it just kept flowing through me, and I was like, all this built up energy that I had just, like, stuffed down in my subconscious, just stuck there, just came flowing out. And so I was just like this endless cup of water, right? Just like just kept
Mm.
flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. And what it did, which I'm realizing now, because there's some things that we can talk about in a while about like what the roles are, what I'm learning about roles, is that it woke my sacred feminine up from her slumber, which
Mhm.
was a critical piece of my own spiritual healing, and I didn't even understand that because I thought I was healed, right? I'm like, "I'm good, I'm healed, I'm
Right?
a lone wolf, I'm a powerful woman, I'm doing my thing, I got my stuff together, I don't need anybody, I'm this independent, strong woman," and then boom, a wave of bricks, and I'm like, "What the hell happened?" Um, but I was charged, in my masculine energy very much because, of course, we talked about that last time, society and whatever. You guys already kinda know that, it's a very masculine world. We're very much living in this or wounded masculine energy, all of us. And so it literally, woke my sacred feminine up from her slumber. And now I've been on this journey of really healing that internal sacred feminine energy of like intuition and creativity and nurturing and love and compassion and gentleness and finesse and grace and all these things that the sacred feminine holds, which just feels really good. I'm just like, okay,
Mhm.
girl. So yeah, instead of being so rigid and like a drill sergeant, which is what I was, I still have residue of that. I'm always going to, but to be able to drop into my heart and all that stuff. And so I feel like that is the role, and that's what they say, the role of the sacred masculine and your twin flame is to charge that up and ignite it. And I can go into my story about how pissed off I was about this individual doing that to me. And actually telling him how pissed off I was about him doing this, um, which I'll go into later. It's kind of a funny story, but that is the role. So yeah, so Pam, why don't you give some insight? Tell me what your thoughts are on that. The role of the sacred feminine and what we are here to do.
Um, yeah, absolutely. So I think you're right. For certain, there was this awakenness, right? The slumbering woundedness of this feminine energy that we carried, even if we weren't aware of it. I mean, my experience is far different because obviously I had children very young and got married and was, experiencing life from a very young age, in that kind of like family institution. It's like 16 when I had my daughter. So I had with, and I feel like mine's so complex too. And that's the thing with the twin flame. It just gets so complex and entwined and complicated. And this is why we can just go on and on about them. Um, but yeah, we hadn't talked about false flames last episode or anything, but that is something that, does come up in my story is this like triad, of dark and light. And so I had a dark false and a true light is how I clarify them, and for protection of privacy and whatnot. Um, and so I was kind of born into my energies and my stories, in childhood. And so they played out at birth and then again at like 12 to 15. And so when I went off and kind of chose the man that ended up being the father of my children and my husband, he's very much wounded, controlling, masculine energy. So that hindered me. That put me into, a sheltered, naive, very young, girlish energy, right? Like there was no divine goddess. It was very much Persephone getting pulled into like, the underworld and kind of going through and just navigating then what life had for you. And so 17 years of that pretty much. So here I am hitting 30, and I really do equate the whole Mayan calendar of like 12, 12, 12, end of the world shift, right? I really do feel like that was a paradigm, age of Aquarius, new earth, whatever you want to call it. Like that was a catalyst, I feel, because I was 29, about to hit 30. And I remember having this sudden, massive, like life altering shift at that time where it was like, I can't hit 30 and go on with no purpose. Exactly. Right. Like I was a mother and I had, I was in survival mode for my children, but I had no career. Like I was just, assistant management or whatever in retail, like, and it felt soul sucking. And so for me, it really began this quest of what is my purpose? Like, what am I going to do to fulfill me? Like, beyond my children, beyond this identity as a mother and a wife. And I knew I was miserable. I was so miserable. I had become like dead and numb emotionally inside, right? So circumstance led to a reuniting, with the teenage years. Things coming, right, because technology advanced. Welcome Facebook, and so the age of electronics and social media, right? So that's pretty much where I think a lot of shifts happened for me, and it brought the past rushing back, and things that didn't have closure, and things that were left in chaos or in question were able to pick up and play out. And there was a lot of healing. Um, but it was a catalyst because I reunited, yes, with the light, the true twin, and he, in that instant of reconnection, burst open my heart space, like you said. I went from being numb in a marriage that I felt trapped in, that I literally chose death. Like I literally chose, like, to take a divorce and to get out. Like a very wounded masculine energy emerged in that process, and fell to the lowest point where the dark night of the soul was initiated, that I literally chose to die. If that was the case, then to go on trapped in that marriage and in that cycle anymore. I couldn't do it. And so in that, the twin flame was a reflection of this empowerment, because it gave me, like, I don't know, there's so much unknown on this side, but if there's a glimpse of hope and this man is attached to that, then I'm going to take it. And if death is a consequence, then so be it. And I'm not even kidding. Like,
yeah, no,
and maybe that's the Pisces kind of romantic, like sprung me from one world of into another, but I had just hoped for love. I had hoped for something, like, I don't know. Um but it gave me the power to stand up for myself and say, like, I don't want to be married. I don't want this life anymore. And that's been 8 years now. And I mean, so much. I mean, the patterns, the synchronicities. I mean, I am not like that girl did die, that summer. Absolutely. So I think to get caught up in some aspects of twin flame myth, especially when people don't understand it, and like you said, it becomes this ignorance, or this so much misinformation that it becomes like a woo woo myth or hostility. And I think even for twin flames, right? Like, I've held on to this. Like, I haven't even want to discuss this topic until you come along, and I realized, okay, like, I am that leader, right? My feminine got awoken, went through all of this, so now I can help the other feminine that are behind me in awakening, right? Like, I can be that way shower. Um because it is so painful, it is so personal, and
Mhm.
it's so karmic, and you're doing
You're doing
ancestral,
ancestral
intergenerational,
intergenerational,
collective work, and there is love, there's unconditional love that's there, but
but
there's so much
there's
pain. And I think, yeah, there's like the physical manifest world of it, and there's the spiritual world. And the fact is that, like, lines get blurred. Feelings and emotions and energies, like, they get blurred, and you can really lose sight of reality. Do you know how many times I was like, if in another lifetime, I would have been in a insane asylum. Like,
yeah.
I would have been like medicated for severe depression and locked away. Like, I would have, like, I had suicidal ideation at some points, because, like, I couldn't imagine being stuck in this Jekyll and Hyde kind of narrative that felt just so much pain and confusion around. I would have, and again, that's that darker energy that's part of the alchemical process, right? Because we're then able to transmute. And now those processes that once took weeks or months to go through, I can shift through in an hour, or not even feel any heaviness anymore. That's something I know we were talking about. Like, we've reached this side in the twin flame journey where you can miss somebody or love somebody and have like fondness and gratitude for what they did in your journey, but there's no attachment anymore to outcome, and there's no heaviness when these emotions come up. So it's a
Yeah.
pretty
And
intense.
it's intense, and that's the thing, right? Is that that is the role. So, like, I think a lot of people, especially the women, who are starting to awaken, and I think that this is a critical point because I'm seeing more and more women starting to understand the twin flame journey, which is, I feel, is the way to our next shift in this paradigm, and also
Mhm.
leading the charge to a new earth.
Yes.
And more people, the collective is starting to wake up from this, which is really cool, where women in this scenario are the leaders of this process, and that's part of
Yes.
what the sacred feminine does. She leads the process. Why?
Yep.
Because she is tapped into the spiritual realm, and her higher chakra systems, where the masculine, and so I was kind of just listening to this thing and it made a lot of sense, where the man is more in his lower root chakra system, and the material world. So he's more about, the finances and the material stuff, and grounding things, and making things material, where
Providing
the
and
sacred
protecting.
feminine, yeah, where the sacred feminine is connected to the 5D. She's, or the fifth dimension. She's really up in her higher chakras. But what happens with the sacred masculine, and this is kind of how is that they open up your heart chakra, which is what women have been. So when you think about it collectively, and the fact that we live in this very, very, very male dominant world, our masculine patriarchal model, where emotions have sort of been, they like cut off the emotion. And it's not just for men.
Mm.
Women get also get shamed for having emotion as well, which is really the heart chakra. It's the heart center. Well, women hold, they're still allowed. And this is where I have a lot of respect for the men. Like, I feel really bad for the men in a way because they're kind of stuck in these lower chakra system, energy fields, and they're not able to transcend it as fast as we are either, because even though we're made fun of for our emotions, or oh, she's on her period, oh, she
Yeah.
likes this, she did it, all the things that they say about emotion, we still get a pass, a little bit of a pass. Men don't get a pass at all.
Yeah.
So what happens, I feel, is that when we meet our twin, um which is supposed to happen, it literally penetrates the heart, and that's why the wave of emotion just opens up. And now for someone who's not really ready for that type of energy, which you're probably not gonna be, you just
Right.
don't,
No, you're
you're
not.
not gonna, you're just not gonna be, okay? And I think it hits
You're
people
not.
very differently. um yeah, I wasn't, I thought I was fine, right, until it like just smack boom right in the heart. And then feeling all of this collective energy from that individual, like, I'm like, I don't even know this individual, why am I feeling all of this energy from this person? um that it is such a huge vast energy, and it's supposed to open up your heart. And part of it is not resisting it, but allowing all of that emotion that was like stuffed down to actually come out of you, and allow it to just flow and come out. And for me, again, I cried. Like, I just, like, I was pissed. First of all, I was really angry at this individual, um because, like I said, I'll circle back to the story. What happened, is that the individual was like saying stuff, right, that I felt was just inappropriate, like, "Oh, we should get married," this and just saying all this stuff, right, and I was, like, confused by it because I was like, "Well, first of all, I never wanted to get married. I was a lone wolf, you guys, I swear." I was like, "Yes." I was this woman who was powerful on her own, and, he's saying all this stuff, and, like, he doesn't truly know that I was crying, like, days before when I met him, but I stood up all night crying, and I didn't share that with him because I was weird. I was like, "I don't know what
Yeah.
this is, and he's gonna think I'm a psycho."
Or
So
you just keep it to yourself.
I'm like, "This guy's gonna think that this girl has issues, right?" So
Red
so
flag.
I didn't say anything, but then he's like, "Oh, we should get married, this and that." And then after he said that, after he said, "Oh, we should get married," then he's like, "No, I don't even believe in that." Well, that triggered a lot in me. I was really pissed off at this individual. And I said, "You know what?" And here's the deal with the twin flame, is that you will always, for whatever reason, because I always had issues with my throat chakra, but I just couldn't hold back from telling him what I had to tell him about his behavior. Usually I would just be like, "Yeah, whatever, this guy's stupid, I'm done." No, I was
Mm.
like, "I need to talk to you." And it was like, I just felt this need to like talk to him about what he did. Like, it wasn't okay. And so I was pissed at him. And what I told him specifically, and now I understand what was happening, and I thank him for it now, is I told him, when you ignite a woman's flame, you have the responsibility to take care of it. I said, and see, at the point, we hadn't even slept together. I think we kissed maybe once even. So this is how crazy I probably sounded to this guy, right? Because he's like, "Yeah." I started crying in front of him. He's looking at me like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, he's like, "We're not even doing anything." And for me, it wasn't about the fact that we had done anything. It's the fact that I knew that he was better than that, and that
Mm.
that was not okay, and that he should not be going around doing this shit to any woman, period,
Yeah.
let alone me. Do not do that to me. So I told him, like, "You're a good man, right?" And what did he have to say? He's like, "Oh, what am I in the principal's office?" Like, he was like trying to joke about it. And I was like, I'm serious here. This is not a joke. Um, and literally, I don't know that anybody has ever called him out on his shit. Um, and he just sat there in silence like, oh shit," right? Like, "She's serious." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm serious. Like, you don't be doing that to women. It's not cool. It's not okay. I think you're a good man." And then I just straight up asked him, right? "Do you feel like you're a good man? Like, I think you're a man of God. I think you're a good guy." And he was just like, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well, that's not good what you're doing. And don't do that to women. Period. That's not cool."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Okay," like, "Oh shit, like what what just happened?" And and then I was irritated by him for doing that to me, right? Because I was like, "Dude, I just like 2 days ago was crying when I met you, and now you're doing all this." Like, so I was angry, I was upset. It opened up this emotional channel, but it also allowed me to call him to his bigger game. And I think he kind of freaked out. And I think he realized like, oh shit, like, yeah, I'm not behaving like the man that I should be behaving like.
Mm.
And he wasn't. Like honestly, he wasn't.
Yeah.
That's not cool. You just don't do that kind of shit, right? Um, but I was angry at him. And till this day I was angry at him for the stuff that he does to me. I was mad. There's more stories about what happened, like saying I love you and then ghosting me. Like, I don't know who does that, but whatever. Okay, fine. You've done it. It's already done. Um, and for me though, what I've realized about the masculine and the feminine story and the scenarios between the two is that I have the compassion now for the sacred masculine and their job
Mm.
for the women because the sacred feminine, her job, right? And I like what this woman said, her job is not to worry about what the sacred masculine is doing. That is none of her
Right.
business. And
Right.
honestly, it's the job of the women are to focus on their life purpose,
Yep.
their soul journey, to reconnect to the divine, to bring in this powerful energy. We are leading the charge to bring in this very sacred energy into the collective to heal. And we
Absolutely.
are doing the healing. And it sucks because we are the ones, it sucks in some ways because we're the ones who are dealing with all of this like healing shit. It's like, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, and that is a beautiful thing. And so now I can look at this individual and be grateful that every time I have my connection with him, every time we are talking or connected and we leave and we separate, I do level up, right? And I
Yep.
think I was trying to understand the distinction between this catalyst. They call it the catalyst twin flame instead of false twin flame because it's not really false in a way that it's more of a catalyst to
Right.
align
Yeah.
to them. But I've never had a catalyst. I didn't need a catalyst, right? Some people have it, some people don't. But the main distinction that I'm learning from the twin flame scenario or what I'm hearing is that the catalyst um doesn't when you leave them, you don't feel like you're growing, right? It almost feels like they're sucking the life out of you, where
Yeah.
your twin flame, you elevate into your next level of spiritual evolution every time you separate. And,
Yep.
with this individual, that is the case every single time. Cause I was like, oh, he's just a false. And I just wanted to get rid of him out of my head and everything and just be done. But yeah, that's not what happens. So for ladies, for you out there, you're not crazy, number one. Number two, don't worry about what the hell he's doing. Just worry about what you're doing because that's what you're supposed to do is just worry about your spiritual healing. And whether he comes back or not doesn't matter. What matters is that you're evolving every time you have these touch points with the individual and that
Mhm.
you're able to expand your consciousness for the healing of all the collective, right? And that's huge. So I think with him, because I was trying to make him my catalyst. I'm like, no, he's my catalyst, but I don't even want another flame or whatever the hell this is, right? Just to stop the whole thing. But then I'm like, well, when I'm looking at the distinctions and I'm looking at what the scenarios are between a catalyst and a real twin, it is true that every single time we disconnect, my consciousness expands and I am like, oh shoot, like I'm
Yeah.
actually elevating because of this connection with this individual. And it's far and few between our connections. And mostly I in the scenario became the chaser, and I feel like those scenarios with the chaser runner, um, that the chaser, when the woman becomes the chaser, that you're pushing your masculine energy away further and further, and you're not doing the work you need to do because you got to refocus on yourself and
Yeah.
your connection to the sacred masculine within. And you push them away because their job, from what I understand in the twin flame scenario, is that they're there to ground the relationship. So when they're ready, if it is your twin, they will come back and you're supposed to be together in this lifetime or whatever it is. They will come back to ground the relationship. They will come to you and they will ground the relationship. You don't need to go to them. That's again not our job. I like the idea of that not being our job because I get to just focus on my internal healing, which is what I've always done anyway. So it feels really good that I can just like, refocus on myself. So thanks
Right.
for giving me permission. Okay, so I did a lot of talking. So
No,
you tell
that's
us.
ugh. Yeah, I had some points and then like I kind of lost them.
That's
But
okay. I know because I can just keep going. Go ahead.
no, no, definitely agree with you. I totally relate to the coming together and then, learning and growing and evolving and then like having that separation because all of a sudden just boom, one day you're ghosted. And so you got to kind of work through that. But then like I realized, oh, there's massive growth. And I know I've told you the way that I've been able to see that symbolism in myself and in my patterns and cycles is through the symbolism of the snake and the phoenix. And with the snake energy, there's that growth, right? That's when you're just shedding skin and you're kind of letting go. So eventually you'll come to a place where you are no longer the chaser. All those other times you're chasing, you're just repeating the patterns of the phoenix. You're just kind of burning yourself up in the ashes and being reborn to like follow the same loop again. You're given the same chances to deal with maybe new triggers that you haven't healed and stuff like that. But like, it's just going to kind of keep bringing you around until you change behavior patterns and you tap into wisdom and you start doing new things. So when you can have the awareness, like, oh, I am a chaser and I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm not going to do this, like that's when you boom, grow and evolve as a snake now. You just shed that pattern. And so that's how I've been able and like I've told you, like I've gotten rashes, I've had like dry skin or whatnot. My hair will kind of either really really be growing in, so I'll have like a lot of spikes at my roots, or like I'll kind of be like losing a lot more hair in the shower. So those little body cues even align with those cycles. And so for me, like that's been a powerful moment of self reflection and awareness and coming into like this standstill moment to reflect on, okay, what did I just learn in that 3 month cycle or that 6 months or that 9 months, that we were able to come into vibrational alignment. And that's why you like, I was thinking when you were talking about, in the first few days of meeting and your wounded heart is like, all of a sudden bursted open with emotions and his behavior, that he thinks he's being this like probably funny, smart, like charismatic man, but it's like his wounded heart, really, right? Because he knows he doesn't even want to get married either, because you guys like kind of marry each other there, I think. If I remember correctly. But like yeah, there's that triggering. There is that like you are, and that's why it's part of that explosion of energy too, because not only is it rushing open like this high vibration of what unconditional love is, right? Of source oneness, of where we come from and where we'll go back to. So we're tapping into that vibrational frequency in the background somewhere while dealing with all these chakra blocks and energy wounds and all these things in our aura, like emotional, mental, body, physical body space. So it's a lot of chaos. It's almost like a big bang. Psh, like or black holes colliding, is really what it feels like. And so it can lead to these really dark, depressive states, and
Mhm.
they can lead to the opposite of that, where it's high vibrational. There were times where we would come into an alignment and it was that reconnection. Like I didn't need to eat and I didn't need to sleep. I was just literally floating through life on this high charged energy, and it didn't even impact me. Like I didn't feel hunger. I didn't, like I just wasn't tired. So it's beautiful how it can energize you. But I think, yeah, like not getting pissed off and angry with the triggers, like you said, but learning to work with them. Because I even noticed each cycle we would be healing triggers, right? But we would also be maybe even like implanting new triggers that would come
Mhm.
up the next time around. And
Mhm.
so in our last cycle, when he, would give a sentence or a word, that would be that seed. And I kind of caught that awareness.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
because we're honestly legacy. Like, I
Yeah.
get it. I totally get it. We're at that middle age point in our lives where what's our legacy? I think that's just a natural human ego, psychological development that we're, you know what I mean? That we're meant to think about purpose at certain points, family at certain points. And then I think that's why we have midlife crisis, right?
Mhm.
So it is like, what am I going to build and leave for the second half of my life? And
Yep.
and I wasn't going to allow that word to leave a trigger because it's a word that I've been using and saying, and it's been a focus as well. And so it's like, okay, like I don't know, like, but again, it's like, well, I feel like we have a joint legacy, like that
Yep.
our power and our energy, like you said, is supposed to be these anchors of this paradigm.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm just doing the work on my own, and I'm aligning other twin flame soulmates
Yes.
to help me do the work.
Yeah, and I think so, and I'm wondering, like, even in this lifetime, because it does. Okay, so that's another thing. There is this very hard place where you feel like you're doing it alone. You get to the twin flame narrative, if that's you, and then usually, and I think, I mean, the way I came to the twin flame scenario is because I was trying to figure out a way to process what was going on with me. I didn't know how to move it forward. It didn't make sense to me. And it was something I never had experienced, and the individual himself doesn't like this, right? Because like one thing is, like, I always say I love you. Like that's a big thing for me, and when I told this individual like I love you, it was like, well, you love everybody. But I don't think this individual understood that it's a very different feeling, right? And I tried to
Mm,
explain it, but I had no words. I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know how to let them know, it was a different experience altogether of how I felt for this individual. And I didn't have the words for it. So the twin flame journey wasn't something I was looking for. Like I said, I was a lone wolf and I felt good on my own the time. And then years later, I didn't even stumble across the twin flame scenario until maybe 6 years after I met the individual, because the person moved away. The person doesn't even live here. I don't even, so I'm like, why is the residue of this individual still in me? Like it's been so easy for me to just get over guys and whatever. I don't care. I'm doing my thing and I just focus on my life and things go on. And it's like, okay, I process it. They're gone. This person just was always there. Reminder,
yeah.
reminder. I'm like, why is this? So coming to the twin flame narrative helped me to really process things. And you can feel very alone on the journey. But here's the cool thing is like, no, you're not alone. The thing is that there are these individuals who are right now in the chaser runner scenario and they're not chasing anymore. And so those individuals who have stopped chasing can feel like, and it is okay, I'm going to say you do it by yourself, like you have to process that internal work on your own, but you
Right.
have a family of people who are processing that work on their own. So you're not fully alone, and you do have individuals who have information on how to move that energy through your chakra system, how to connect to the sacred masculine that is bigger than our own understanding, right? Like for me in my journey, I am not looking for this individual to show up in the 3D. Okay. They don't have to show up in the 3D for me, um, because I am fully connected to my sacred masculine energetically. And I can feel it energetically. And knowing that and feeling that and being able to connect to that gives me a sense of security and protection that I need to do my internal feminine work, which is awesome. Now, if the individual shows up in the 3D, now, because I was a chaser, I was the one chasing and chasing and chasing.
Yep.
Now, because I stopped chasing, I'm like, "Oh, what the heck am I doing?" Forget your shit together. You just need to focus on yourself. That now doing that, if the individual does show up, I'm gonna know what it feels like energetically. I'm gonna know, and he will show up to ground the relationship. But if he doesn't, it doesn't matter. Like for me, it doesn't matter either way. I'm doing my work that I need to do on this planet. And then we have a soul family, just like you, Pam, right? And thank you for
Yeah,
saying that you teach that, because maybe you're a twin flame as well and you know the scenario. Hopefully you're in unity. If you're not, that's fine too. But I think with Pam and I too, we're like twin flame soulmates, right? Where we're collectively starting to come together to help each other through the process. You know,
absolutely.
and that way collectively these the other half of our soul can awaken as well, and maybe it's gonna go faster because of that. But the fact that we can unite as a family and people not think we're crazy, because honestly, I would have honestly, I'll tell you this, people who talk like this, like again, I had never heard about twin flame, right? But people who are like, he's just the love of my life, when I was young, I was like, oh my God, like, what's wrong with these people? There could be millions of loves of life. Stop it. You know what I mean? My high school
Yeah.
sweetheart who passed away, he was a love, and I was like, I could love again even after him. But yeah, the twin flame scenario is a totally different energetic connection that you, unless you've gone through it, you can't really, it's not some woo woo thing. It really is a hit to the heart. When the masculine comes in, it is a full hit to the heart. Like
Mm.
I can't, I mean, I talk about the crying so much, but I couldn't understand, like, he literally, and I even told him this, I said, "You realize that you have a very strong, powerful energy." And I thought it was like that for everybody that in his life, but I don't think so. I think it was just because he was there to wake me up, and he just penetrated my energy field so big that I wasn't even ready for it. I was just like, he pushed out Gilbert, which is, my high school sweetheart, boom, completely out of my mind, out of my narrative. And I was like, what the hell is this? I don't even know this dude. Like, I met him twice. Like, who is he? I don't understand why I'm feeling this way, right? It's like crazy. It's like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, this is
Yeah.
weird. And then I'm over here like praying, like, what is this? Help me. And I'm crying and crying and crying and crying. And I think they say that you can feel past lives and stuff like that. And it's weird because I don't feel like I have a past life narrative here. Like, this is my first round and last round on earth. But wherever our energies came from, somehow his family connected to me. And so, his a person that had passed away, because I felt this energy of a woman that had passed
Mm.
away circulating, and I thought maybe it was his lover. I was like, "Oh, maybe he lost his lover like I lost my lover. Why am I feeling that energy?" And it happened to be that it was his grandmother, which is really interesting, and she was kind of like there kind of pushing me towards him. Like, I could feel her energy, like, help him, this and that and the other. And I'm like, I'm clairvoyant, but I am not one to talk with the dead or have connection. Like, I'm not one of those, what
Yeah.
are they called, mediums? I am not a medium. But for some reason, this woman was up in my business. I was like, "Look, grandma, you gotta go."
Uh, I
She
had an astral dream, with, yeah, his. has passed over, like mother and sister, and they were bringing me a grimoire, and he was in the room just kind of watching and observing, because I couldn't figure out who these two women were, and I just, from their energy and the way they were, I knew it was the crone and the mother, and they had this grimoire. And I jump up off my bed and I go over to my bookcase and I get mine and, like, I don't know, kind of sit down, and then boom, dream ends. And I'm just like, what the hell is that all about when I woke up? So yeah, it's kind of insane how there are those spiritual ties, because I had messages too, like, here, tell it, like, kind of pass on this vision or pass on this oracle card reading. You know what I mean? It was be subtle messages like that were just like, let them know. Like, there's a power here still guiding and watching. That was always attached to a feminine energy.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
and I think you called in, didn't you? Is it Susan? Susan? Um, because she said her and her husband are twin flames. That's awesome. Completely different
Oh.
worlds. Yeah. I think you tried calling in, and we didn't catch it. But if you do want to, we have about a few minutes left. If you want to try to call in again, you could join in on on the conversation, which is good. I think it's cool because I think people are individually talking about like the twin flame scenario, and I think we all need to come as a community and just be
Mm.
like, hey, sisters and brothers, let's start a twin flame community. Okay, here, watch. Let's see if I can. You're calling in. Hold on. I'm going to invite you in. Oh, shoot. Do it again. I think I just missed it. Sorry. I apologize. So try calling again. Okay, here, we're going to invite you. Let's see.
Hi.
Hi.
So,
Hello.
yeah, this is Reverend Jody Susan Calhoun, and I love the conversation that you're having about twin flames.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah,
tell me
tell us
what
your
your
story.
definition is of, because I think we all have different definitions. What's your definition of a twin flame, and how's that showing up?
um, yeah, I just kind of stumbled across this because I couldn't get over something. Um, and I think I'm still exploring what it means for me in particular, but kind of the narrative that I like to take is that it is the ability for me to find unity within myself, like wholeness within myself, and come back into union with my internal divine feminine and divine masculine energies so that I can actually live purpose and support the collective in kind of raising consciousness and shifting the paradigm and the narrative. That's for me specifically. But so that's kind of my definition. Pam, I don't know if you want to answer that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I see it as a oneness that is split of a vibrational frequency. So, like, almost like an imprint of a finger. It's like your identical match in that level. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, so it does. So, I think that you're both spot on. My definition, if I may, is
Uh-huh.
yeah, thank you. So, my soul split, created my husband's soul,
Mhm.
and we act as a mirror so
Yes,
that we can heal.
absolutely.
Yeah. And so if something's showing up for me, I have to look within myself, like you were saying,
Mhm.
to remove that frequency and heal it and become one with the universe. Exactly.
Mhm. 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 Yep. Yep. And what a beautiful story, right? I love the story. I'm like, it's great. um, but it's not fun. Some of it is just not fun.
It's
Not
not
here
an
anyway.
easy relationship. However, it allows me to serve so that if
Uh-huh.
I handle something between my husband and I can then pivot and help the next person through their journey.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. How
And
long
yeah,
have
there's
you
no fun about it.
No, it's not. So, how long have you been on this journey? Well, obviously forever, but when did you guys meet? Like, how long have you guys been in together, and how long was your journey? And can you give us an idea of what happened with you?
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, I've been married to him 2 years, and we met 6 years ago, almost six
Mm,
years ago.
mhm,
My journey was back in 1997, misdiagnosed, over-medicated, 19 drugs, almost killed me. The Western medical community almost killed me. Reversed all of the diseases that they caused, which was 29 different chronic diseases,
Wow.
using plant and energy-based healing. And now I serve the world and teach about toxic-free living.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's
I love
beautiful.
that.
So I'm
Yes.
grateful that the doctor did his thing, right?
Yeah.
And used me as
Yeah.
guinea pig because I can tell everybody what not to do.
Oh no,
Oops.
but thank God you're healed. And so did you met him on this journey? Like, how did you guys meet? What was your, like when you guys met, how did you guys come together?
That's really funny. So um, I have a friend who's a chiropractor and a shaman, and he said to me when I first met him, "Hey, did you know you have a monk on your left shoulder that's guiding your personal life, like your love life?" And I said no, because I didn't know at the time. I mean, now I can see it. And so what I did was, he goes, "Well, would you like me to remove it?" I said, "Sure." And so we set up the appointment, had it removed. 2 days later, my husband showed up, and that was it.
Well, that's awesome.
I
That's a
mean,
fast journey.
yeah, he has job security. Is right. He's amazing, and now I do that for people too. But yeah.
That's cool. That's really awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a fast kind of journey that you guys went on. Did you guys ever go through the phase of chaser runner, or that wasn't in your story?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So wait, who was the chaser then?
Not me.
Oh,
Not me.
well,
We
okay.
got married when I was 58 years old. I just turned 60,
Oh
and
my gosh.
I'd
Wow.
never been married, and I was used to being independent. And so I was like, what?
What?
Oh, there you go, Natalie. There's hope.
I know. That's no. No, but sadly, I became the chaser, which I never was, which is like, what the heck? How did this happen? Um, which is funny.
Well, I think that we all become the chaser actually at some point. We pivot, but I don't believe, like, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm pretty steadfast, and I have really high standards, and I have expectations about how a relationship should work, which includes respect, love, compassion, grace, but really listening, active listening, and then making agreements so that, and then sticking to those agreements. Because if you keep on making agreements and not sticking to them, it's another form of manipulation, right?
Yep.
So I am highly studied in like leadership and effective communication. And so I stuck it to him until he changed.
Well, that's great. I love that.
Well, but I had healthy tools, and then I
Yeah,
had good
absolutely.
friends that helped while I cried about it. So
Aw.
yeah.
See, that's the part. It's the part where it hits you in the heart. It's like the feminine energy of like just crying and releasing all that energy. I think with this community, which I've just noticed, it's like more and more people are kind of waking up to this twin flame scenario
To
and
the
kind
what
of
scenario? Oh, the
the twin
twin flame
flame.
scenario. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I see more and more individuals kind of talking about it, saying they're experiencing it. And for me, I just like the narrative and, even the myth and all that, because there are things like that you cannot, like, how do you explain things, right? It's like gives us a container, gives me a container anyway. That's how I felt to process the experience that I was going through, which was vastly different than anything I had ever experienced. But I have this whole, like, container to help me move through the process. Plus, I think now a family, right? Like a twin flame family. What's nice to hear from some people that are together in unity, right? Like to be able to have that conversation and see where you guys are in your journey and stuff. Because, the separation phase is like murder, hell. It feels terrible.
Well, and here's the key, okay,
Yeah.
to a twin flame relationship.
Sure.
There's no blame and shame.
Mm-hmm.
there are only lessons.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
we can reframe
Uh-huh.
and from blame and shame and move into lessons and people don't have to be made wrong,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it provides ease and grace on the journey.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, lots of compassion and forgiveness.
I just came
Well, and I
across
didn't
that
have any
like
of that.
2 days ago. I'm
What?
grateful for you. And now
Thank
I'm mad
you.
at you.
Thank you. No, I mean, I didn't have. So, my friend Naima Latif, she's on here as well. She's listening in,
Oh,
and
Hello.
hi.
and so she was the one who was listening to me cry.
Okay.
Well, bless you for that.
Yes, thanks, Naima. We need that. We need sisters to let us cry. Please help us. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
I don't know, Naima. Can you hear this or no? I think she may be in your group in here. She was on the podcast a moment ago. Not sure if she's
Here,
still
I
here.
see her. Yeah, I see her on here. I don't. She hasn't said anything, but yeah, I think it's. Oh, look, she wants to call. Let's invite her in. We'll just have a
Yeah,
whole discussion around all this.
for sure.
This is what we need. We need all of us come together. Let's talk about it.
That's what Naima is all about, right?
It's like the twin flame circle.
Totally. So it
Oh,
looks like Naima's there.
yes.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
We're
How are
good.
you?
Great. Excellent. Excellent.
So tell us your story of twin flame. We want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think I married my soulmate,
Uh-huh.
and I'm kind of and my business partner, my current business partner, I think is my twin flame.
Oh, got it.
Oh.
And that's
Okay.
been a very challenging relationship,
Hmm.
and
Oh,
yet it has brought out in both of us all of our hidden fears in life so that we could address them. And
Absolutely.
both of us have a fear of emotional intimacy. So that's been our challenge. Uh, Fear of heartbreak, you know, these things going all the way back from childhood, where both of us had, um, I guess you would say, challenging relationships with our mothers.
Mm,
And so both of us have to face the fear of being hurt by someone who we depend on for emotional support.
mhm. Yep. I can actually relate to this.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for
Completely.
sure.
Yeah.
And that's the
The
deeper
motherhood.
thing of the twin flame. Like that's at the core of it are these core wounds and intergenerational traumas. And I think that's what doesn't get discussed enough is like how the suffering and the pain in the process of navigating this really hits us.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it hits you to the core,
Hmm.
right? I mean, those wounds are deep, and so I mean, yeah, they're just deep. I mean, it was very difficult for my husband and for me, but it
Mm-hmm.
allows us to ascend.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely. Yes, the ascension process. So, Naima, I'm curious how is are you feeling like I'm just gonna ask you, are you feeling like you want to be with your twin flame? Like, and how is that playing out? Like, so if you have the soulmate, what are they? Do they know about it? And then, like, how is that scenario playing out for you?
Well, that's a good question. Now, my soulmate, who was my husband for 20 years, he transitioned. He passed away. He's on the other side.
Oh, got it.
It's
Okay.
16 years ago. And a few
Oh.
months after, well, let's see, I guess it was maybe 9 months after his transition, I met the one who is now my twin flame, and we became instantly very close. And you know how when you meet somebody there's like instant recognition, and that's an indication that you've had more than one life together, and
Mhm.
probably a very intense relationship in other lives.
Yeah.
It was just so intense, and you just instantly close friends, and a relationship of trust that I have had with no other person on earth. Is amazing, but then it's also been very intense in terms of, I mean, when we're angry at each other, it's anger, rage,
Mm.
so everything is just extreme in terms of the intensity, but all of it brings to the surface our deepest inner childhood wounds.
Mm.
Uh,
Mhm.
Yeah.
both of us dealt with, mothers that were very verbally harsh,
Oh.
and so that in itself creates certain kind of personality disorders in you, because you're
Yeah.
living your life trying to avoid that ever. It's so painful,
Yeah, that's right.
and
That's right.
yet, we had the closest friendship and companionship, and I mean, this is a whole story about the relationship between my husband and I that continued even after his transition. But my husband, uh, he was such a powerful soul that we were able to continue our connection even after his transition. And he would encourage me by, telling me just to be patient and to understand that this person in my life, this new person in my life, was deeply wounded, but he's a good person, and so this
Mm.
this was just such
Mm.
an interesting evolution that I went through, and I'm still going through. So now
Mm.
now I think that both me and my twin flame are at the point where now we have healed our wounds enough where we can have a trusting relationship, because both of us have kind of avoided it, back and forth. First we're together, then we're not, then we're together, then we're not, and
Yep.
all of our friends have watched the drama over the last 15 years, and they laugh about it.
Oh, I know, yeah. But in the journey.
Yes. So I think now we're at that point where we understand that we're good for each other when we are healed.
Yeah.
And so now we can perhaps write a new chapter in our relationship.
That's awesome. So you're like at the
Mm.
point of unity is what they call it. Like you guys are ready to come together. That's the hardest part I feel of this journey is like you have to heal the karmatic patterns, the intergenerational trauma. You have to heal. I mean, it's like it's all of this stuff that just like you said surfaces. And I think for me, I resonate with you in terms of the mother, the healing of the mother, right? These would be the sacred feminine masculine energies that we experience, right? And the mother being the hardest one to kind
Yeah.
of heal from. And I feel like that's kind of the last step in some ways. I mean, I'm not sure if that's true for everybody, but I do know that because we come from the mother, she kind of gets the blame for everything. At the end of the day, we're kind of like, oh, it's my mother. But I feel like that's kind of where I'm at in terms of like, I think that's where I showed up as the chaser because I was chasing my mother's love my whole life, chasing,
Yeah.
chasing
Wow.
love. Yeah, just constantly chasing love. And I'm like, yeah, I just got to stop. What am I doing? I wasn't even chasing men or anything. I was chasing my parents to love me. And,
Yeah.
and
But
now that has all this stuff.
that's what needs to be healed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean,
That's exactly right.
that's a ticket.
Yep. It is. It is. And I'm learning
So,
that.
oh, wow. May I? Is that okay? Can
Sure.
I? Okay.
Yeah.
So mine was a little different.
Mhm.
My mom was an expert at holding grudges. And so, guess what I brought into the relationship? Oh, once you make a mistake, you're damned for the rest of your life.
Oh.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah, that is so not okay.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And so and that's a beautiful. So you have to be brave enough. My birds are piping in. They're
Oh,
both.
I was gonna say, you might want to explain who's giving that commentary in the background.
Yeah, so I have two parrots. Fagala
Aw.
and Tinkerbell. They are both healers and intuitives,
Oh,
and
cool.
they're amazing. They're on our podcast, so
Oh,
um,
awesome. Oh,
So they're used to
so
being able to contribute.
yeah, they're used to like, hey, it's my turn. Seriously. So what do you want to say, Fagala? Thank you. So what she's saying is, mommy released the grudge, and she goes, and so do other people need to do this,
Yes.
and replace holding a grudge with forgiveness.
Yep.
Mhm, mhm.
She says, when you forgive, what are you saying? Hold on a second. She says, forgive yourself first, then forgive them. She goes, you can't forgive others until you forgive yourself first. Oh, you're wise. She's wiser than me, I'm going to tell you. She runs the show.
That's
That's great.
awesome. So
Thank you.
yeah. So you guys, Naima, you guys have your podcast. Do you guys podcast together, or do you have your separate podcast?
Yeah, we've got 7 days a
There's
week.
a
We
yes
have
and.
a
Naima, I'll let you explain.
podcast. Yes, yes, right. Yeah, it's together, but it's each host has their separate. We have a whole team of hosts that come on, and Jody's one of the brilliant women that shares her healing modalities every
Mm.
Tuesday, and of course, we're going to be expanding to the Podbean platform, and so
Awesome.
Oh,
Welcome.
okay.
yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. And look at you guys. I can tell you're collaborative people because somehow you ended up on here collaborating with us, which is really
Right?
awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, it's that collective energy. We're pulling you guys. We're pulling each other, magnetizing each
Yes.
other.
Well, so we were trying to figure. So right now we're on Blog Talk, and Blog Talk has shadow banned, and in addition, Blog Talk, just their technology isn't where it needs to be, and so Naima's. It's really important to Naima, like it is to you, I believe, to have people collaborate, talk, and have their voice heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so we were trying to figure out how to do that on Podbean. I've been working with Podbean for 2 years, but I didn't use the app and I didn't use the call-in feature. And so I said, well, let's find a show that we like and let's call into their show. And I saw Women of Consciousness is live now, so I said, sounds good to me. She sounds cool,
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, I love it. Oh my God, it's so
Thank
perfect.
you.
Yeah, it's so perfect. And you guys, always welcome. I love to have people come in and chat and stuff like that. They're always welcome to come on here, right? Because that's what we need collectively to work together to talk. And we all have our own narrative, our own story, and it's very helpful, I think, for others to hear different perspectives because we all like people pick up different things from different people. And so, sometimes the way I say it might not resonate the way Pam says it might resonate or vice versa. And I think it just gives a bigger narrative to the collective, right? It's like being able to tap in and really and share our gifts too. We're at that kind of point where we there has to be a collective community sharing ideas and gifts with each other. I think we're ready for it. I feel like we're ready for it collectively,
I agree.
instead of these individual narratives that it's like, hey, I have the way. No, there's many ways. And
So it's no surprise I connected with you. Really
yeah,
no
no.
surprise. Because here's the thing, I teach about food is medicine, okay?
Yeah.
And amongst other things, like so my platform is emotional healing through toxic free living. And then my show title is self cell care, right?
Yeah.
And
Nice.
thank you. And everyone's got this thing, oh, don't eat this. And I'm like, no. Find out what's good for your body and eat that. But don't tell somebody else not to eat something. Don't vilify it. Don't demonize it. Find out what serves your physical body. Make sure it's toxic free and do that.
That's awesome. It's kind of funny you bring that up. I know it's kind of a little bit off topic, but maybe not because it's women of consciousness. But I actually do nutrition coaching myself. And
Really?
yeah, but it's more of like macronutrient kind of stuff. So it's not necessarily the holistic, um but I absolutely have healed myself through food as well. And I believe in that. You know what I mean? I like you were talking about overcoming some of like they didn't put me on medication, but I myself have overcome addiction of alcohol, pills, all that kind of stuff as well. So been clean for a very long time. I want to say about 12 years now.
Yeah,
And
first of all, congratulations.
yeah,
You know,
Yes,
thank
I
you.
actually
congratulations.
cater to the addiction
Mhm.
community because
Mhm.
once you take a look at your food supply,
Yeah.
you can see there's this thing called the bliss point. If you don't know about it already, are you familiar?
Mhm. I don't know about it.
Look it up, the bliss
Okay.
point. It is the formula for addiction that's
Mm.
Oh,
in our processed food.
okay.
Oh,
I'll have to
wow.
look that up. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at that. And when you guys get your, Podbean up and running, if you don't already have it up and running, I'm hearing that you guys are just going to be setting up your podcast on Podbean. Is that
So
correct?
mine's been up
Well,
for
yeah,
2
Jody's been up
years.
for a while. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. And
And then
then
I
Naima,
just shared. I mean, I just let's see. I've um so I have um liked your podcast, so I should be on
Yeah,
your
I'm
list of
following it
people.
too.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm following
Thank you,
yours.
guys.
Or and so we'll make sure. Now you're on what days of the week?
We come on Tuesdays typically. We
Okay.
just do once a week right now.
Okay.
I used to do this transitioned. I used to do Spirit and Coffee like 5 days a week on here, and then we transitioned into Women of Consciousness as a partnership. So Pam and
I
I,
like that.
our business partners, came together, and now we're just doing it once a week on Tuesdays, and it's kind of we sometimes we go a little earlier, but that's kind of our day to work on the company. So sometimes we do we do a lot of talking before we get on here, and then and then we get on here. So to share. But you guys are always welcome to come on. I mean, we're gonna cover
We can do
many
that.
topics. I think the twin flame topic is something that I feel needs more time to be spent on because I feel like something about me says that the collective is
Yeah.
waking up to this narrative. Like
Yeah.
more and more people are talking about it. It's just becoming, and I think people get misguided a little bit with it.
Hmm.
But and then I also feel that people need support if they're in a separation phase, how
Yeah.
to process that and feel like they're not alone. Because I think in that phase we feel alone. It's
Yeah.
just
Yes.
it can be very hard to deal with it. And I think with Pam, she went before me with her twin flame journey. She's been helping me kind of process. Thank God I have her to listen to me, just kind of like you two have each other. But I'm like, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have Pam. I think I would have probably ended up in an insane asylum.
See, right? I told you. It's just part of the journey. You're gonna end up there eventually, or you
I
did
Oh, that's
know.
before.
funny. You know, so they did put me there. No, I'm just showing.
Oh goodness.
Uh-huh.
They
Yeah.
didn't. Well, they tried to. You know, that's what they do to our healers, right?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Tell you
Yep.
you have a mental
Yep.
illness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. 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 The cool thing is, so Pam and I both received our, just so you guys have a background, and for the listeners, we both received our master's in consciousness and transformative studies. That's where her and I met. And then we just graduated with our master's, and then I'm going to get my PhD in consciousness and society. Um, and so, the array of topics that, we can discuss on here are just, it's endless. And you're absolutely right. It's the healer. I would say the spiritual warrior, the spiritual healer, the wounded healer,
Chiron.
journey,
Mhm.
all the archetypal energies that come through, to talk about it. But I think we're really in a twin flame kind of season if I'm looking at it from at least from my experience, I like YouTube just came out with a bunch of new people talking about the twin flame about a month ago, 6 months ago. More and more people are getting on there and starting to talk about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's this collective awakening.
Yeah.
So,
So
if
yeah,
you
because
guys
the consciousness has been raised,
Mhm.
and how do I put this? For people to really raise their own vibration, they need to find their twin flame, heal
Mhm.
those wounds. And so now is the time
Yeah.
to pursue that and heal.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And it's, you know what? It's what a blessing for you guys to show up here, because now
Mm.
we've just doubled. Maybe it'll be an exponential thing, right?
It's a God
Um,
job.
yeah,
Send out
it
the
is.
ripple waves.
I know. Yeah. What a beautiful thing that you guys showed up here. We appreciate you, and we'll follow you guys as well. But if you guys ever want to hop on here, or even if you guys want to reach out and just do, a chat on here as well, you guys are welcome to come on anytime.
Yeah,
To
likewise. I'd love to have you as a guest on my podcast. We do both Podbean, YouTube, Facebook, and then it gets distributed, everywhere where
Mhm.
where you have
Mhm.
where you have
Yeah,
podcasts. So I'd love to
Yeah,
have you on my show.
yeah.
I
that'd be great.
think there's a way for me to share with you on without sharing with everybody in the world. I'll just put this as a message. So I'll send you my email address. Okay?
Oh yeah, perfect. That sounds perfect. Um, so there you have it. I think we're gonna go ahead and call it a day. We usually try to stay about an hour. It should be smaller, but we like to talk. That's Sacred Feminine. We like to talk. Okay, I have your email. And then let's stay connected.
Yes.
And then we can get on these things. And thank you guys for sharing. I think we're gonna continue with the twin flame. The twin flame narrative moving forward, because I think there's a lot more that needs to happen. I believe in discussed around it. And then hopefully you guys can just come on and be guests and talk about your journey as well.
Yeah,
But
we'd
thank
like to have you. I'd like to have you on my show to be a guest and
Oh, that'd be great.
talk about it. I mean that would be
Absolutely.
fun.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. As many people as we can reach, right? That's the
Right.
that's the goal. Together collectively. What a blessing. Thank you guys so much for
Yeah,
coming
thank you.
on,
It's been so
sharing your
fun.
Thank you both. Thank you. I'm
sharing
so
your stories.
grateful.
Your birds, tell them we love them. We send them lots of love. Thanks for their messages.
She says she
And
loves you too, and
Aw.
she says now tell her I'm the one who rules the roost. And this is Tinkerbell, and she's saying because she's a fairy, and so she's like, tell her I'm the one who sent you. Okay, she's holding her head up high. Wait till you see what they look
oh,
like. They're gorgeous.
oh my God.
We'll connect offline. All
That's
right.
so cool.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. God
Thank
Thank
you
bless.
guys
you.
so much.
Bye
Bless.
bye.
Have a good day. We'll
Take
talk to
You
care.
you guys
too.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye
Said
bye.